Welcome to the Work Awesome Podcast. This is episode 3, and today we are talking about interview don'ts. These are mistakes that our hiring managers and recruiters have seen during the interview process. This episode actually turned out really great, so I'm really excited to share it with you guys. If you have any feedback, leave it in the comments on whatever platform you're watching this on or listening to this on. If you're not following me on social media yet, please follow me. I'm posting all kinds of tips, tricks, and secrets that our hiring managers and recruiters are sharing with me so that I can share them with you. If you're interested in getting a leg up on the competition in your interview, or if you want to progress your career even further, I urge you to please consider following me on all of my social platforms. I'll link all those in the description below for you, so to make it super easy. Please consider liking, following, subscribing so that you can be up to date on what's happening in the world of Work Awesome. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I'll see you on the other side. That happen during interviews that they have seen. And to quickly just explain a little bit more, there are good interviews, bad interviews, really bad interviews. We'll look at those biggest mistakes that the hiring managers have seen, and then a few common mistakes as well. So welcome, you guys. Thank you for joining me. Let's start with an icebreaker. So this is something I started on the last episode of the podcast just to kind of get things moving and have a little fun. So this week's question is, how many cups of coffee or tea or your beverage of choice do you have each morning to kind of just get going?
1 cup. 1 cup of coffee. Sarah drinks all day.
Sarah's 2, but 2 big cups.
Definitely only 1 cup for me. People don't want to see me on any more caffeine than that.
I personally am not like a coffee guy. I drink energy drinks, which is really bad, but the ones I drink are sugar-free, which is good. But they do have like 300 milligrams of caffeine, so that's a lot. I definitely need my caffeine, and it is something I drink like first thing in the morning. But yeah. So we have everyone's coffee, no tea or soda. There are some soda people.
Oh, I drink tea.
Tea.
Iced tea. That's my beverage today.
Yeah, that has caffeine in it too, so that like throughout the day. Okay.
Yeah.
So jumping into the topic, let's just start with some general things to avoid during an interview. What have you guys seen during the interview process that are just like really bad, common mistakes that you see often? Anybody? Sarah? I know you have a ton.
I was going to let Vicky or Lori start.
One of the ones is to ask, one-word questions, to where they can say yes or no. And you have to be a little bit more conversational, open-ended, and get more information. And then obviously allowing them to talk more than you talk is important as well.
Yeah,
I agree. I find that I always, when I was growing up and interviewing in my early career, some of the best interviews that I went on just started out as a conversation, and were comfortable. And so as I've grown and started interviewing other people, I try to keep that conversation thing. I've been given a list of questions in the past, especially, at AD and interviewing people. Here's all, a recommended list of questions. I try not to look at that too much. I think if you can connect with somebody and have a conversation, keep it light, and people will start to reveal things about themselves that will eventually, hopefully, answer the questions that you have. But I think, having a conversation is a really good way to make it successful.
Yeah, absolutely. And to your point, Vicky, when the interviewee is answering in yes or no, or very short, succinct questions with nowhere to kind of bounce off of, it can make for a very uncomfortable interview, because you're not really getting that connection that we talked about, and you're not really making the conversation. The candidate's not able to really portray their talents if they're not kind of expanding on that. One of the things that I would talk about too is, for the interview, there's preparation that goes into an interview before you even get there. So, so Lori and Vicky, like, what do you think when someone comes in and they don't even know anything about our company? What kind of impression do you have on that candidate?
Well, I know, I always recommend going to a company's website, make sure that you're reviewing who they do business with, what is their business, what is the culture like in that company, look at their website, look at the photos, do some Google searches, figure out what you're stepping into, especially like we've talked about dress and being dressed appropriately for an interview. I think that when you do that research, there are many things that you can look at. But I mean, of course, you want to always look professional. But hey, if you're going to interview for a hot tech, edgy company or a new startup who's embraced a culture of relaxation and something that may not be their business type, then you want to know that. You don't want to show up in a 3-piece suit at a company where everybody's wearing jeans and their Marvel t-shirts. So, that research will help you put your best foot forward and be appropriate when you show up.
Yeah, for Avian in particular, it's pretty easy to do the research because our website is really easy to use. But on the other side, our social media platforms, we actually use our social media a lot compared to some other government contractors. So if we see like someone being active on our social platforms and then all of a sudden we're hiring that person and bringing them for onboarding, it's always nice to see a familiar name, be able to put that face to that name, and then really just get to know that person even before they start working for us. Any other things to avoid?
I think your arrival time is really important. So if you come too early, it could actually be an inconvenience to the interviewer, or the team. So I think it's a good idea to make sure you know where you're going. And if you're super early, more than 5-10 minutes early, then wait in your car, turn the air conditioning on, whatever, you're there, you're good, take a couple deep breaths, maybe look over the position description again, maybe look at the website real quick so you have some kind of really fresh information. But if you're walking in, I think most of us are scheduled, back to back to back, especially if we're interviewing for positions. We might have interviews with just a few minutes in between each one. So it can be a little awkward and there might not even be a place for you to wait.
Yeah, so I'd say no more than 10 minutes. 10 minutes is a good buffer time. Some things end early, like you said, if we're scheduled back to back. But I know when I used to interview downtown and I'd be commuting and I'd always get there super early because, just want to avoid traffic and other obstacles. But I would always find a quiet place to go stow off and then wait to go into the office because you don't want to be an inconvenience.
Right. And do a drive-by before too, like maybe a day or two before, because like Vicky, for example, in your location, parking could be an issue.
Correct. Yeah. If we have meetings, customer meetings and whatnot, we have to logistically plan for certain people to come over extra on occasion. So I definitely agree with don't be late like I was today and don't be too early because it is an inconvenience and we're on a schedule. So that's great advice.
Yeah, I think it's really good, especially me putting myself in like the footprints of the interviewee. You're just going to get in your own head as you're sitting there waiting for the interviewer to come out and greet you. Like the things that would go through my head at least are things like, are they taking long because they don't want to talk to me? Or and then you're just going to be off your game when you actually get into your interview. So yeah, if you're showing up a few minutes ahead of time, I think that's best. But to sit there for 10, even 5 minutes, it's going to be, like you keep saying, an inconvenience for the interviewer, and probably you'll get into your own head as the interviewee.
Right. And you definitely don't want to do that because people wouldn't bring you in for an interview. We wouldn't invest that that time, or we wouldn't ask you to invest that time if we weren't interested in you as a candidate.
Right.
So, coming in with confidence is important as well.
What about somebody that like focuses on themselves too much? Do you think there's such thing as like overselling yourself, or I guess having a too large of an ego, one might say?
I think you have to find a delicate balance in when to speak and when not to speak. I think you have to force yourself to sort of take breaks, let the interviewer chime in. I know I've definitely been in some interviews where somebody's just talking and talking and talking, and you're just kind of sitting there waiting for them to finish and be polite to interject your next question or, shift the conversation. So, verbal and nonverbal cues, we can talk about that a little bit later after this question, but I think that's really important to pay attention to both verbal and nonverbal cues of the person who's interviewing you and knowing how to shift and scale back or provide more.
Right.
Yeah. To not, I guess, I don't want to say hire somebody, but if I have a person that is talking I, and there's no we in our company and things like that, sometimes you kind of get that feeling that they're not going to join in as a team and agree with everybody. So when we do interviews down here, we want to make sure that they fit with us and not that they're an individual person, but that, I'd rather have a good player who plays well with the team than a great player who doesn't play well with the team. My softball analogy when I say that. So we just, and I just said we, because we are a we together. We're not I's.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's a really good point.
This one is kind of interesting to me. I'm now just reading off of a list that I personally have because I like learning from you guys. What about bringing a resume or not bringing a resume? I know like in this world of technology, we can easily just like email resumes, but is there still something to the old fashioned, like physically handing over a paper copy of your resume?
I think it's a good idea to bring one copy at least of your resume. And actually maybe even two, because what I have seen candidates do is occasionally we'll say, hey, can you talk about a few highlights from your career? Well, if you have that resume in front of you, then you can see those highlights and it's kind of a little guide for yourself. And if you're kind of caught off guard by a question, you can look back. Or one of the questions that's frequently asked is, talk about some experience that you've had in the past that would help you qualify for this position. If you have that and you have a good resume in front of you, it's giving you the information right there. So not that you're just reading it off of it, but it kind of gives you some visual cues as to how to answer that question. I have been caught a couple times where, because we use an applicant tracking system, occasionally the resume that is uploaded into the applicant tracking system is not the most current resume because maybe they're using Indeed or some other job board to apply. So it's not at all what they think that we have. So it's not a bad idea to say, hey, you know what, this is my most current resume. Is this what you're using?
Yeah, so in the past, as a graphic designer, and always having sort of a nice, pretty polished, designed resume was not so easy to upload. In the past, you didn't really have the opportunity to upload a PDF or whatever. So for me, I always I always recommend bringing a couple copies of your resume, especially if you're representing yourself through your resume, visually or artistically. But I didn't even think, Sarah, you made a great point, just for yourself to review and to, let you use that to guide your, your narrative about your experience is a great tool too. But as far as like printing them out for other people, I don't know, unless it is a showpiece. You're so wonderful because you print out all of our candidate resumes ahead of time. So we have nice little beautiful folders to work from, which is always helpful.
I didn't know about these folders.
I'm sorry, Vicky. I will come down anytime you have interviews. You know that.
Yeah.
I look for any excuse to come down to Panama City Beach. I love it.
Yes,
I love that.
all take a trip.
I know. the team down there is just so much fun. I have a great time every time I go down.
I mean,
I've never been. I need to go.
Yeah, everybody loves it here. We do too. So
yeah,
I concur. I'm a digital kind of person, but I do concur of bringing a hard copy to your interview. For the reasons that y'all indicated, if it's been updated or, maybe I didn't have a chance to print it out, and it kind of shows me that you're taking initiative and you're organized by bringing it with you. I agree.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and I think, Vicky, your point to being organized is huge, and kind of most of the things that we've talked about today are coming to an interview organized, and it's not that hard to do. So doing the research ahead of time, have a little portfolio or a folder that you have the job description, the position description that you applied for. If that position isn't posted live anymore, ask the recruiter to send you the PD. We're there to help. We want you to get the job. I mean, it makes our job a lot easier. So have that. Have a copy of your resume. Jot down some questions in advance. These are all ways that you can look together and feel together. It's kind of like having, notes on a podium. This is your chance, and this is a way to help you really shine through that process.
Yeah, absolutely. And then
out of it.
So I only have a few more questions, I promise. I know we're running short on time today, but that's fine. So I want to backtrack to before the interview. What about cover letters? This I know isn't part of like interviewing mistakes, but do you guys still like seeing cover letters? Do you not like seeing? If you get them, do you not read them? What are your opinions on those?
I'm guilty. I don't read them. I go straight to the meat.
Yeah.
I was letting someone else respond first, Vicky, but that's pretty much where I am too.
Really? That's interesting to me. That's interesting. I feel like I still read them.
You still read them? Yeah, I think there's some mixed reviews on this. So like when I was in college, however many years ago that was, and we had the Career Center, they pretty much trained you. You have to have a cover letter. It has to say these things, but then you get into the actual corporate world and you learn that not everybody actually reads a cover letter. It's all going to depend on the person. Some companies actually use an automated system to kind of use like artificial intelligence to go through them and see if they're hitting keywords or not. So yeah, definitely some mixed reviews on the whole cover letter thing.
So that is one thing that could help.
I have to wonder too, like, has the idea of the personal statement sort of overcome the official cover letter? I have seen that recommended, to start your resume with a personal statement that's sort of a brief summary of where you've been, where you're going, where you want to go.
Yeah.
Objective.
It's been a while since I applied for a job, so.
So Vicky, Vicky had a good point. Do you mind saying that again, Vicky, about the objective?
I'll read it. I do skip the cover letters. I'm definitely guilty of that. And I think it's mainly because of time constraints, because I want to try to focus on what they're doing. But I do read the objective, and that's usually at the top of their resumes. And kind of get an idea of what they think that they want for their future. I mean, if I have somebody that, is starting fresh and immediately wants to move up into management, it kind of is a little bit of a red flag, at that time. But as they want to progress with the company and they put that in their objective, then I say, okay, this person wants to come in, learn and grow, and not try to be a manager right off the bat. So I do read the objective.
Yeah.
And that's Vicky has a really good point about the how you are presenting yourself in the interview. Because if you're presenting yourself as someone who's really just taking this job as a step in, but not really interested in learning the job and doing the job and succeeding in the job, then sometimes that can really come across. And when we're, as I think, hiring managers and recruiters looking at filling a position, we want to fill it for a while. We don't want to keep doing this, over and over and over. So we do want to hire someone who's going to be really happy doing that work. We want you to be happy in your job. So portraying that during an interview, I think, is important too.
Yeah, and I don't know. That's probably not just an avian thing, but I know avian. We like to hire people that want to grow and want to grow within the company.
Absolutely.
It is unfortunate that because of the type of work we do, we have those people that are just looking for stepping stones. But I think the majority of the time, it's people that do want to contribute and grow within the company, which is always a really good thing.
Yep, absolutely. So, Ian, do you mind if I ask Lori to talk about a couple of the things we've learned in our interviewing? Vicky,
absolutely.
Lori and I have had some very interesting interviews together.
I've been looking forward to this part.
Yeah. So,
I believe hazard pay was mentioned.
Yeah, I think hazard pay was mentioned. So, just like a top level, not to give any specifics, but Lori, what kind of have you learned about some of the huge not to dos during interviews?
So we've had some huge sort of personal profile appearance issues. I recommend that, be clean, be put together, have your shirt ironed, brush your teeth.
Right.
Yep.
We've had some interesting occurrences. So, it's so hard interviewing anyway. It's hard to be in front of people and not knowing where the conversation is going to be. So the little things that you can do up front to take the distraction away from what might be distracting with your physical appearance goes a long way. Like I said, iron your shirt, brush your teeth, comb your hair, make sure any facial hair is trimmed.
Yeah.
Limited jewelry.
For us specifically, we have a wide range of jobs that we fill as a company. So like we do have these corporate positions where you're wearing suit and tie every day, but we also have mechanics who wear work pants and get greasy. Even if you're a mechanic, you should probably ask your significant other if you look good or if you call your mom, something like that.
Hands.
Yeah. Wash your hands. Yes.
So I would say that as a sort of past experience for some folks that might not have taken that due diligence ahead of time, oversharing personal details that are really not appropriate and maybe very somewhat distracting. I mean, we've had a couple people that told some stories that were just too much.
Yeah. We would have been better off not hearing.
Yeah, you want to be conservative with what you're relaying. Now, naturally, with regard to in our business, we talk about security clearances. We talk about things, in your life that personally may affect your ability to obtain a security clearance. You just want to be, have a filter.
And if you're concerned, you can talk to our FSO.
Yep.
Yeah.
Or security officer. We don't need to know all the details in our interview specifically.
Absolutely. The other thing that I wanted to talk about today was, knowing, and I said this earlier about verbal and nonverbal cues, know when to stop. I personally, I feel like I verbally and non-verbally give those cues. If somebody's shuffling their papers, if your interviewer is shuffling their papers and kind of getting their stuff together and saying, yes, well, thank you very much, that is your cue to wrap it up. Say those last few things that you want to leave with your interviewer, but get to the point and recognize that they're done. And respect their time and, genuinely say thank you. But recognize that when somebody is sort of getting their papers in order and looking around or maybe checking their watch or giving you those verbal cues like, thank you for coming. We really appreciate you taking the time. Hope you have a great day. Well, we're we plan to get back to our candidates in such and such time. Take those cues to wrap it up.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess the last thing, so Vicky, do you have any big pet peeves? I know Lori talked a lot about hers or some of the things that she's seen, but any major pet peeves that come to your mind?
Down here we're a little different than up there, and you kind of got to dress for the job. If I'm interviewing for a technician position, I don't expect them to come in with a tie.
Right.
Maybe polo shirt and some khakis, yeah, and probably a belt tucked would be good. And they have to like animals. We always ask if they like animals. We're very animal oriented down here. But no, a lot of times, most of the people that we hire down here, except some of our newbies, or we call them greenies, are already in the community, and they can, so it's a little more difficult because those people have been around as long as I have, and we're all one community, and we're all related to somebody down here. So we just have to be of those things, because I'll give you an example. One of our interviews, we heard that he was a teacher, but he wasn't a good teacher. And come to find out, they were talking about the wrong person. And we almost didn't hire this guy because of what we heard. And I'm so glad that we didn't listen to that. And that when he came in for the interview, we all opened our mind and got we didn't like him out of us. And he ended up, he's one of our star employees now. So sometimes you just got to open up. And I mean, we do like to do background research and make sure people have good reputation, because obviously we want that. So it's just a different style down here, I think. For our craziness, I think.
Awesome. Well, this topic is actually really interesting. We might have the opportunity to circle back to it because I think there's plenty more to talk about. But I just want to say thank you guys for joining me today. And on the next episode, we are talking about how to negotiate salary, which would be a pretty interesting one. And actually, let me re-say that, how to negotiate compensation, because there's more to the package than just the salary. So definitely tune in for that one. And thank you guys for listening. So thank you again, everybody, for joining me, and we will see you next time. So what did you guys think? This episode had a ton of great information in it. If you want to continue the conversation, please jump on one of my social media pages. We can continue the conversation there. It would mean a ton to me if you would share this video with one of your friends. It doesn't matter if they're looking for a job or not. I hope that these videos can help them unleash their passion and work awesome in the future. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys next week. The Work Awesome podcast is brought to you by Avian. Avian is a 49% employee-owned company founded by retired U.S. Navy test pilots who believe passion and talent are the right traits to get the job done. Avian operates in a culture that thrives on innovation, creativity, and the entrepreneurial spirit. Instead of offering services through mere business transactions, Avian is redefining the government services industry by creating meaningful experiences and connecting talented people with important work. The passion that Avian's employees have for its work builds better partnerships for the future, and Avian's unique talents create real solutions. At Avian, we move fast, take risks, and don't settle for the status quo. To learn more, visit Avian's website at avian.com. That's avian.com.